Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Vox AC30, the JMI one. So we've got the parts for it, we've got the capacitors here, and there's also some knobs in there, but they're for Vox AC15, but I'm modding more on that later. So we've got F and T's, for this. We've got F and T there. We've got a Sprague bypass capacitor, and we've got some 30. That's a 33 microfarad. That's an F and T, and another 33 F and T. So no expense spared there. The best in this. There's no good putting cheap components in a classic amp like this. The first thing we're going to do is change this electrolytic, and I've already loosened it off. Now this electrolytic on here is 32, so I've seen these at 16 plus 16. This amp is used in a recording studio as well as gigged, and the guy wants it to be quieter, and you do get a bit of background noise with the 32s. So we're going to put this 50 plus 50 in. Now I know there'll be some people out there saying, you know, it should be keeping it original and everything else, but this is a working amplifier, and you know, why Vox never put 50 plus 50 in these. You know, any other, I mean, a 15 watt amplifier like you know, like a WEM Dominator or something like that, they've got 50 plus 50. And I know some people will say, well, it'll be a bit stiffer on the bottom end and whatever else. It will. If the customer doesn't like it, we can always swap it back. But we're going to try this because we want the emphasis is on less noise as well. So it's a little bit of a compromise all round. Right, I've just changed this capacitor here that I've taken out, this 32. We've put that 30 in there. Now this is a much bigger cap. This resistor was resting on top of it, so I don't like these resistors with these pips on here, and the reason is for that is that they can be pushed down onto the chassis, and that would create a dead short. So I changed them on the last ones, I did, and I'm going to change it on this one. I've got these 22Ks that I'm going to put in place instead of that. So we've got another one down here, these Zenith resistors, but this one's more fixed, more secure, and that's for the bias. One end of that's down to ground anyway. That's the bias resistor. So that one's fixed pretty secure. So I'm going to leave that one, but this one I don't like. This is not, to me, I just don't like those resistors. So that's coming out. Right, here's the big electrolytic that I've taken out. He's 60 years old, so he's retiring. All these parts that I'm taking out of this, by the way, I'm putting in a bag, so the customer will have the original parts back that's come out of it. Right, we've replaced the cap and we've replaced the resistor. You can see here now we've got, it's not resting on the cap like it was before. It's got a bit of air around it, and we've insulated the leads on there as well. So now we're going to remove this cathode bypass capacitor, which is 250 microfarad at 25 volts, and we have got 250 microfarad at 25 volts. It's a Sprague, bit different in size, but it's a modern capacitor. Tested the diodes. I tested the resistor. I think that should be 50 ohms, and let's have a look what it's wading in at. .8ish. So yes, That's a little under, but not much to worry about there. So I'm looking down at the screen resistors here. We've got some 1.5k carbon copper. So I'm just going to put a bit more light so you can see those there. 1.5k, that's what they are. So we test those, and these, some ones added, are the screen resistors. Sorry, grid stoppers. Grid stoppers, and they are. Can't quite read what they are. They're that small. Those crummy little 8th watt things. Just have a look. A lot of flux on those. What? Oh, sorry, 1.5k. So just the 4-band ones, aren't they? Struggling to see them. 1.5k. So that's because I think, can't remember what they were on these. I'll have to have a look on the schematic there for that, and just check what those grid stoppers. I think they're on the grid. Yeah, pin 2. So they're the grid stoppers, and they look like 1.5k. We can put the meter on and measure one, can't we, instead of faffing about here? But that's what it looks like to me. Let's just see what we get. Yep, they are 1.5k. So there's the cathode bypass capacitor, TCC micro pack electrolytic. It doesn't look very micro pack at the side of the sprig though, does it? 250 volts working and British made, and there's some kind of code on there. Don't understand any of that. Right, let's get the new one in. Right, so we've got this under part done. We're going to move on to the side where all the components are on the other can caps. So we've got 30 microfarad in there. We've got a new 22k resistor. We've got Sprague 250 microfarad bypass cap for the cathode resistor. Checked out these screen resistors here, and just looking there, and they test right on the money, all of them. So we're leaving those because they're great. Checked that these are 1.5k on the schematic. They are, so we're leaving those. They test okay. So that's all done. Of course, we've got our big can capacitor in there as well. You can see he's done. So that's it. So we're ready to move on to the to this side. So if we just gently spin this round. These Vox amps, they're very awkward to put down on the bench, and I always like to work on them end upwards like this, because I don't want to be lying the controls down onto the bench. So I always work on them stood up like this. So what we got to do in here then, so these two capacitors here we've got to change. That is, I do believe, I think is that 30 microfarad, 32, that's right, because I've got a 30 to replace that. And then this can cap at the bottom is 16 microfarad plus 16. Oh, sorry, it's 8 plus 8, but I've got a 16 to replace that. There we go. Yeah, you can see that. That's, and again, that's the same as that one that we've already taken out there. So he's being replaced, him, and then we need to look at what else is broken on here, because remember the trem channel doesn't work properly. So we need to check through all these components, and there's quite a lot of them in these amps, as you can see if we just zoom up there. And we also need to check that these components that's been added in are all up to spec and right. They probably are. They've been put in pretty well, so there's no issues there. I wouldn't have thought, but we'll check. There's a capacitor there to replace, a 25 microfarad, that needs to go. These look, some of these capacitors, there's one for example here, we can see that one looks like it's, let's get some more light, that one looks like it's been replaced recently, so we'll check that out. We've got the Mullard mustard capacitors down here, you can see they seldom leak, but we'll check them. And to be fair, these were Weimar or Weimar, whichever, Weimar, these never leak either. And here's some capacitors I've not seen in an AC30 before. And I don't know whether they're original or not, you know. I don't think they are, but I'm not sure. They look like the brand, the turd capacitors, as the guitologist calls them. Doesn't make me laugh, that does. Yeah, so we need to check those, make sure there's no leakage on them. 0.15s, 150 nanofarad at 400 volts. They're Nichicons, so they're good quality. There've been no issues with those, I wouldn't have thought. And then there's this big beast here, this 0.1. He's been in there some years. He's also been slightly singed with a soldering iron as well, but we'll change him as well, I think. Been in there a long time. Does that say 1000 volts working? Good grief. So yes, a quick inspection there. There's been a resistor change there, look, and that is actually on the trem, you know. There, so we'll have to check that on the schematic, won't we? What is that? 560k, that is 560k, so we'll have to check that one, make sure that's all good. We'll just touch that solder up as well, it's okay, but it's just a little bit of muck in it as well, but nothing. Right, I've got those in there. So the next job is we're going to power it up and just make sure everything works properly with all the work that we've done, and then we're going to start fault finding. Right, we're just going to fire this up now on the variac. You can see the meter, I've got a bit of voltage in it already, and you can see it creeping up on there because we've got the GZ34 rectifier tube, so it's slow starting. So you can see that's just gradually going up. I've got 54 volts on the variac. I'm just going to bring that up a bit more now. So we've got 80 volts. We're going to bring this up steady just because of these capacitors being new, and just to make sure that we've not made any mistakes. There we go, it's warming up now. I'll just put 100 volts on it. Volts on the variac. You can see now that's going up, and we're reading that off the first node. Turn some dials up. .120 volts. Right, we've got sound. Here we go. Voltage is going up slowly. We're at 198 volts on the variac, and we've got 280 on the meter so far for the first node. And that's turned up flat out, and that's just loads quieter now. That's silent. Just a little bit of normal, but that's just mains transformer type hum. Right, we'll let him warm up and we'll just check the bias quickly. Make sure there's no issues with that. I doubt if there is. This thing's running lovely. And then we're going to have to do a bit of fault finding. So the main symptoms we had on this was the trem channel, or vibe, is it? Yeah, the trem channel, vibe trem, whatever channel isn't working, or is, but it's very quiet. And the normal channel just seemed a little bit muddy, so we need to look into that. And we have got one capacitor to change there at that end, right on the end of that strip, that 25 microfarad. That may be a bypass capacitor of some kind, but that would be speculating. And we'll check to make sure that the brown turds aren't leaking. Right, let's give it full tilt, madam. 240 volts. $332 volts. That's about what I would expect. That's all looking good. And there's the assistant at the gate, henchman Dregs. My dog Shaft. You've seen him before, I'm sure, in the videos. Don't lick me gloves, mate. There we go. So that's all looking good. So I'm just looking at the clock now. It's 1 o'clock. That means it's time for lunch. Right, I've just checked the bias on this Vox AC30, and you can see there 15.21 watts, 49 milliamps a tube. So that's quite high. Those JJs that you can see round there, I did notice the paint was going a bit dark on them, and I don't know how long they'll run being given that amount of swage. The GEs probably will, but they're really over biased. Right, so I'm going to try and get this bias a bit cooler on these tubes, because 15.2 watts is too high for those JJs. So we've got 11.67 across our resistor. Resistor is 82 ohms, but ours measures at 81. That gives us 144 milliamps. Take away 5%. That gives us 136 milliamps. Divide it by 4. 34.2 milliamps per tube now. And we had over 40 odd before, and if we times that by 327, 49 we had before, times that 327, that's 11.1. Right, let's just have a bit of a recap of what we've done so far. Recap, that's a bit of a pun, isn't it? So we've changed all the main electrolytics. We've changed the cathode bias capacitor, changed this feed resistor, we've changed the bias resistor now, that is 10 watts 82R, because the twos were running at 15 watts, they're now running at about 11.1, 11.2ish, somewhere around there, so that's reduced that. We've changed a capacitor up there, don't know where my pointer's gone now, use this pen. We've changed that 22, well, it was 25, but we've put a 22 in. So we've got 22, we've changed a 2 nanofarad cap, we've just moved down there, changed a 2 nanofarad cap, that was that hunch that dropped to bits. A little bit of frying on this vibrato channel. We've finally got all the electrics done in this amplifier, and I'm going to go through some of it now. So I had videoed this as I was going through it, but unfortunately the camera card in the video camera had failed, and we lost all that footage. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go through and do a bit of a recap on what I've actually done. So if we start on this Vibe Trem channel, which is these components here, so we changed the 22 microfarad there because that was a really old one. We changed the 2.2k resistor because that was way off out of spec, and basically I've rebuilt this channel because there were more problems with it. The 10 nanofarad coupling capacitor had failed, so I've replaced that. That got the sound back to a point, but it was still quieter than the other channels. And then I discovered that this 100k resistor was actually 10k, so somebody put the wrong value in at some point. So that is a plate resistor along with this 47, and that gives you a total of 147k. But there was only 57k, so we'd be losing some gain there, so replace those. The 47 was way out of spec. A couple of resistors there were okay, 1 meg 2.2k, that was fine. 330k there was miles out, so we changed that. The capacitor across it was also out. The resistor there, I can't quite see what that is now, I've been through that many. But that, whichever one that, but all these were out anyway, all these. So if I get in when I'm filming, I'll just get across the camera lens. All these were out right down to here. That was a Hunt's capacitor that cracked. There was a big crack in it, so that was changed, and it'll be coming out anyway because Hunt's capacitors don't last. All the way down here, the 750 picofarad capacitor there, you can see he's absolutely fine on the money, but the resistor that is across was way out of tolerance. Workers way down here. Now there was some new Rubicon 33 radials in as bypass caps, but these should be 22, so I've changed them to Vichys, and I'd got to change the one on the bottom because I burnt it with the soldering iron. I've not done that for a while, but it does happen occasionally, and it's fine, it happens, but if you do it, change it. Don't leave it in. It looks unsightly. It still worked okay, it just didn't look nice, so I always change them. So change that. The capacitor, the cathode resistor there was way off spec as well. So let's just move up to this board now at the top. So we've got a capacitor change there, that was absolutely fine. 270k there, that was a 220k that measured 300k, and I've had to put a 2 watt in there because I don't have any more 1 watt, so I've got to order some more, so drop that in there. The 220k there was about 260k, I think, something like that, way off spec. There's a 150k hiding underneath there, you can't see, and he was about 180k, I think. These 22Ks were also miles out. We'll work his way down. There's a plate resistor there that's been changed at some point, but that's right on the money. So it was changed years ago by the look of it, but it's right on the money, so we've left him, no reason to change him. These capacitors here, these Nichicons, someone put those in previously and they are really good quality. They test fine, so there's no issues with that. All the capacitors test okay. This capacitor here was nearly double its value, this 100 nanofarad, so we've changed him too. I've just got to tidy that up because I untacked it when I was testing, and I just actually need to check that value, but I've just got that to do because that's not tidy. And that's it basically. We're about done with this, but the other problem now that's appeared, which is in its construction. So if I move this around, you can see that that's not particularly clever, is it? And it looks to me like there's a couple of bolts come out of there. Some probably years ago they've come out. There is, you can see where there was a bolt on the aluminium at one point, so we need to bolt that up, otherwise we may have grounding issues on this amp. And it's just being held together with these transformer bolts at the minute, so you do need to check all the nuts and bolts on these, because with it being a split chassis like this, it's in two parts, and you'll get grounding issues if these start to come loose. You get all sorts of problems. Right, we've got look up here, we've got a bolt in there, and you can just about see the other one there. Now I've tightened up all these transformer bolts, but the ground here, probably just see if we get in, I've had to put a really good star washer on that, because that just wasn't tightening up properly. It just wasn't good enough for a ground point. So I've got some really tasty, here's a bag of them here. You can see these are quite fierce star washers, I suppose one way to describe them. So that's nice and tight now. So we're all the way there with this now. We are ready to. I've just got that capacitor to check. But other than that, we're ready to give this a run. Now I know there's some people out there, you know, probably some purists probably say you've changed far too much in this, whatever. But this is a gigging amp. The guy wants this for gigging. He wants it to be reliable. Right, we've got the AC30 back in its case. Got it on the Vibe Trem channel. With the vibrato, let's try the tram now. The tram now is a lot stronger, more richer. There we go, that's the trem channel. Let's move into the normal channel. That chromatic a bit too much there. Right, let's try the brilliant channel. Let's see if it is brilliant. Whoa, that is bright and loud. My God, that's bright, that is. Take some of the cut off. Vox AC30 have done a lot of work to this amplifier, a lot of work. There's a lot of problems with it. It was very noisy, all the main electrolytics were gone. The vibe trem channel's been practically rebuilt. There was just no end of problems, wrong components put in it over the years. Just people, I should imagine it's gone in for a service and someone hasn't had quite the correct part, so they've put just, you know, similar values in there. Usual things you find, you know, on an amp over the years. But as I've said, this is a gigging amp, so we've gone to town on it, and because it needs to be reliable, it's not going to be sat, you know, in a collection somewhere. It's proper. It's a proper amplifier. So that'll do it for this one. So thanks for watching. You all take care, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye bye for now.